Hello and welcome. I'm so excited to be here. And of course, RoseAnn's now making funny faces at me and making me laugh. So I am excited to be here for our Game On Expert interviews. I am Jean Berry. I am your Game Inventor Mentor, and I bring experts who are relevant to you, your businesses, your physical products, your spiritual life, your growth, and happiness on the planet. And today I'm incredibly excited to have on my friend RoseAnne Janzen. RoseAnn helps business owners, creatives, and individuals accelerate their inner evolution. Wow, I've just got it going today. And awaken new levels of clarity and come into alignment with who you are and what you're here to contribute. I have known RoseAnn for, I don't know, how long have I known you now? 5 or 6 years, something like that. And we met through a live event and then through some mutual friends, ended up on a mastermind that we have been together in the last 5 years. I had the pleasure of helping her birth her game, Conscious Evolution. It's an amazing board game that actually does that. And I'm sorry, I called it the wrong thing. She's laughing at me. Expanding consciousness. It had consciousness in there. And RoseAnn is also the publisher of the Conscious Evolution Journal. See, that's where I got mixed up. We were doing too many conscious and evolution things in the same space. RoseAnn is up to so many amazing things on the planet that it's hard to keep track of all the amazingness that she causes. She is so good at really allowing this facilitation of self-generated, self-actualized, and self-activated to get to that really high level of service. So if you don't know what any of that means, then we are going to dive into this more deeply today. And I am thrilled. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here, RoseAnn.
Oh, thank you, Jean. It's a pleasure to be here. It's always fun to talk with you. We go crazy good places.
It's true. And this is one of those things that we could sit here and chat forever as well. So if you are here live, thank you. So glad that you came to join us because this is going to be a juicy conversation today, as always. Beth, Lois, so glad that you're here. And as always, if you have questions along the way for RoseAnn or anything that she does or talks about, feel free to type those in the chat as well. So RoseAnn, I sent out a little questionnaire. You know, when you know someone for a while and you're like, okay, well, what do you want to talk about today? And we could go anywhere, but you mentioned that one of the things that you're really on a mission to do right now is looking at the micro to the macro, or the macro to the micro, like both ways around. What is that?
Well, this is something that I figured out sort of over my lifetime, right? But specifically in business. And it starts with, it's like a process, right? It's becoming clear on what you really want to do in the world, but there's a process to that, right? And so first, we've been looking for our purpose in the world, and then we're looking for our mission. And then how do we want to do that? And of course, everything in our life is in service to our purpose. And our real purpose is our evolution, right? It's our conscious evolution. It's conscious awareness. It's bringing more and more of the subconscious and unconscious into the conscious so that we can become fully ourselves. That's our real purpose to be here, right? And everything else is in service to that.
Okay, so this is really interesting because I know a lot of people would probably say that, their purpose is something else.
And I would say that's your mission.
All right. So in defining the language then of those kind of distinctions, why is it important to know the difference between your mission and your purpose?
Well, your mission is really more worldly. Even though it's in service to your purpose, which is to evolve. But it's what you're doing here in the world to facilitate that evolution. And it's really why you became a human, right? So that you could learn this stuff. Um, of course, in some, a whole bunch of things flitted through my brain. In Hinduism, reincarnation. So you could be anything, and that's all in service to your evolution too. Um, I have no memory of that stuff, so I can't really speak to it. But the human part, yes. And
So,
and so really when you're looking at your mission, and what you want to do here in the world, it was born, you were born with it. It's your core desires. And you've always been doing them at some level. And so, like for myself, my whole mission is conscious evolution. And and without knowing that, I have been doing that my whole life. Like I was always observing people, I was always directing people and helping them to be in the right place at the right time, and doing all this sort of stuff. But it wasn't, and learning on the way too, through all the different businesses that I did. And I'm talking with my hands again, my pen. Um, and so then when I came to this business, it was becoming more and more aware of that mission and putting words to it, and having the capacity then to do it on a bigger scale, and to make the choice to do it on a bigger scale. And so I believe that we have the choice of how we do it, and at the scale we do it. And so, and there could be more than one sort of mission, right? There could be more core desires that you have in you, but usually there will be one that's really big and strong. And
okay, hang on. I want to back up for just a second because I know. Well, first of all, I want to say hi to Tom and Laura and Joanne. Yay! So glad you're here live with us today. And when we start to go down this kind of mission rabbit hole, right? There are a lot of little distinctions, and I know a lot of the people inside of my community, and I suspect all over the place, have had multiple missions, or aren't even quite sure exactly what their mission is, or they had their mission, they thought they knew they were doing it, and then it kind of shifted a little bit. So in service to that conversation, I'm wondering if you can share, before we go deeply into mission, if you can share a little bit about some of the things that you have done in the world, because you have a lot of interesting past that you have done a lot of very cool things.
I have. I started out as a bookkeeper and became financial controller at that company. And from there, I went into the brokerage industry and worked as a portfolio manager there. Then I had my own business, activewear, and making backpacks as a fabric store that sold that type of material and patterns and stuff. And then I wanted to make sculpture. So I became a blacksmith to learn metalwork. And I did that for quite a long time, became sick, and then went into the fine arts as sort of an extension because I wanted to learn more about design. And I ended up being a painter and a working artist. And that led into this business. And it was really, really interesting looking back on it, because in each one of those careers, I learned something more about how to listen to source and to attune to it, and to actually hear the inner voice and pay attention, and to learn that it was always right.
So that was the thread that held this whole conscious evolution, like discovering that that is your mission. You could see the thread through each one of those things.
Right. And in each one of them, a different part became stronger and stronger. And so like in fine arts, I learned how to get the ego mind out of the way and just let source paint. And I mean, as you know, that's a magical place to be, right?
Okay, so yeah, and hang on. So if you are a creator here, I suspect that you relate to that, like this piece of creating from source. And that's where a lot of people I found find that kind of common conversation, like they understand flow, right? And exactly what you're saying. So if you are a creative or you create things through flow, which I think everyone who just said hello are in that realm, like, yeah, Laura, Joyanne, Beth, absolutely. Lois, yeah, and Tom, yes. All of you have this piece of creativity that comes through. When it comes, you're just in flow state, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are, yeah, Beth says like channeling, absolutely. Yeah. So if you learn that inside of being an artist, then you pick that up and bring it with you to your next iteration. How does that give you then clarity inside of, say, being a blacksmith or even picking stocks in the stock market?
Well, that's interesting, because when I was in the stock market, I noticed that really high-level entrepreneurs or arbitrageurs used their intuition like that. Like, they didn't call it that then, but especially one guy, like if his leg hurt, they knew they were going to be selling stuff. And, like your body tells you all this stuff. You learn, right? Through your body and your senses and your extraordinary senses. And although I was aware of it then, I didn't actually start using it for buying and selling stocks until more recently, when one day my broker gave me a list of stocks, and I'm like, Tesla, this much, and this other stock, this much, and he's like, no, that's backwards. Tesla is really, it's a gamble. This is back a while, and I'm like, no, that's right. And that was my first experience of source choosing stocks for me and choosing the day to buy it, the amount to buy it, and the day to sell it. And the day to sell it was the high. How could I know that? I couldn't. There was no way I could know that. But I did know that all ahead of time. And so that's how I invest now. And boy, that does way better. Although I love the analysis part of investing, like that fed my brain. And you do need to have a base of knowledge in order to really tap into source and get the practical benefit of that. So it's just like skiing, right? You have to actually know how to physically ski before you can become in flow state while you're skiing, right?
I was just thinking, actually that took me down a whole thing of, like taking out people on the ski hill. Yeah, I did that. Sorry. Thought I was flowing. No, not really. Just didn't know how to ski. But that's a whole different story. So now let's kind of start to circle back around to this mission piece, because I know that you have continually honed the words behind your mission that have made it more impactful for you and more understandable for you as well, so that you can then do the things that are in alignment with that. Yeah. What does it take then? Like, how do you get there? How do you get that honing down of both expansion as well as understanding? Like, it feels like a right brain, left brain kind of thing going on.
Well, it's both. It's really, it's a process. Like, evolution is a process. Life is a process. Everything we do is a process. And hence we have time. And so the more you do it, and the more you explore, and the more you question things, and don't just decide that you know something and that's it. There's always more to know. And so the more you go into your ideal client, instead of picking one and just leaving it, if you keep doing that sort of process that we do as entrepreneurs, the more you learn and the more you refine it and the more you pinpoint at each stage who you want to serve, what you want to do for them, how you can help them, what they need. And this all evolves as you're going. And as your understanding increases, your awareness increases, your clients are going to change. Everything's going to change. What you offer is going to change. And what I found particularly in this time and it's been not just me, but many entrepreneurs in this time with COVID and sort of the pause, is that a lot of the old stuff has been falling away, the stuff that was extraneous or is extraneous now. And we're focusing in on what's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Tom says, yeah, I want some more of that, the connection to source. So you have a lot of really specific ways that you go about that. Of course, one of them is a very playful way through your game, expanding consciousness. But then there's also some very specific things. I'm thinking of when I took your Advanced Spiritual Adventure course, and we walked through a lot of the senses to open up our connections. And you gave us some secret symbols. Are you going to share some today, maybe?
I don't remember that part.
That's really funny. You know, sometimes when we're brilliant inside of our course, we don't even remember what we did. See, I'm just going to reach deep inside your psyche and pull things out. Now, what I've noticed, of course, is that your logo is actually like an infinity symbol. And one of the things that you were talking about is this, tracing of the infinity symbol in front of you to actually align you and connect more deeply to source.
Right, the exercises, yeah. And I've added some too from that now. But one really easy thing, like my logo is a good example of a download, right? It was given to me, and the infinity symbol is source, and the circle is humans. So it combines the two. So when you can trace the infinity symbol and then the circle in the infinity symbol in the circle, and do that on your body, just like on your arm or on your leg, it really starts activating things within you. And when you do it in full size, like all the way down your body and then all the way across your body, up and down, or down and up, that really aligns you. And unbeknownst to me, like Archangel Michael actually showed me these exercises. And then I was watching Donna Eden after that, and she's well known for alignment exercises and activating meridians and realigning things. And many of her exercises are similar. Like, it's really interesting.
Well, I had forgotten that you had an Archangel Michael connection also, and that you had delivered that, because, as you know, you and I have talked about St. Michael's sword, which was a dream that I had a year ago, and I'm still working through all the imagery behind that. But the interesting thing about this is that I find a lot of the people who show up in my circle have also had an interaction with St. Michael. So I'm curious, if you are here watching, or if you're watching later, I want to know, are you also like connected to St. Michael? Is St. Michael one of your main guides, or have you had a very specific interaction, or have you just noticed the presence of St. Michael in your world? Because I find that we kind of have those kind of things in common, these backdrop things that we don't necessarily always talk about. So how would someone go about then getting more connected to source? So we have this nice symbol, we can draw it on ourselves. What other ways do people get connected with source?
Well, the easiest way for me is a smile. Anything that puts you in alpha connects you to source, right? That's where life is, the real life.
Well, you know, that's interesting because when you get into flow, of course, often it lifts up your energy and you smile anyway.
Yeah, right. And you'll notice this is really interesting. When you look up 45 degrees, and if you just slowly raise your eyes, not your head, just your eyes, there's a point at which the corners of your lip, you can feel them start to go up, just ever so slightly. That's the magic point where you flip into alpha. It's
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
I used to have this little thing that I'd say, turn on the heart spark, and I'd say, okay, turn the dial. And as you turn the dial, you have to lift your mouth.
That was really interesting to me when I discovered that, and it was just sort of accidental that I discovered that. I knew about raising your eyes, but then I didn't. All of a sudden, I noticed the mouth connection too, and so the more you do stuff like this, the more sensitive you become, and the more you become aware of finer details and more subtle voices that you're hearing, like that you would have missed before, little nudges, and it's oh boy, the more and more you become aware of the subtleness of things and tune into it, the more you realize that you are creating constantly. And the more you realize that, the more you become aware of how that you want to be more deliberate and more careful about what it is you're creating, because everything that comes out of you, of course, creates, right? So you want to be really careful. And
Well,
the
you
more
know,
you
it's
smile,
interesting. So last night I went down, I called it a rabbit hole, but someone else said it was just a flow state because I was lit up by something like, I have to go there, I just have to go. And it was actually about my game, which, I promote here and there, but I usually add it to other things. And so it's not necessarily a standalone promotion. But I was prompted to get it into a different shopping cart because the experience is clunky. And so I wanted to go experiment with that. Well, I got it all set up and then I went to bed. Well, at 2 o'clock this morning, someone went in and ordered a game standalone. It's not someone connected to my community. I couldn't find how I was connected at all. And I thought, oh, well, that's fascinating. Good validation. I was going down. And so this morning, I opened it up. I'm like, well, who is this person? And I opened up my system where she purchased it through. And I'm like, oh, I don't have any email series. I don't have any, I didn't have any infrastructure behind it. I've sold hundreds of these games, but I've never sent anyone an email. Following it. And then I'm like, oh, well, let's write some emails, crank those emails out. And it's just been a really funny day because I keep following this little thread because it keeps lighting me up. And I'm sure that it's going somewhere and I'm not sure yet where, and yet I'm still lit up. And so I like what you say about this subtlety of the joy behind it. And normally what I would do in that situation is I would be like, oh, well, that's not my priority today. So I should probably set that aside until it's my priority and then I'll come back. But of course, I would never have written those emails in like 12 minutes. Whereas normally I'm like, I gotta write emails. That sounds horrible. And so I think that this is an interesting conversation about the subtlety of source connection. So, and Beth says, when we asked about St. Michael, she says, no, I haven't connected, but I'm open though. And I think that this is one of the keys. I'm open to a connection with St. Michael. This now opens a whole thing, right? Ooh, I am open to that. And so I think that that's kind of what you're saying also is hear the subtlety, watch for the signs and signals and how it communicates with you.
Mm-hmm. And the more you become aware of different modalities and different things, and the more you become open to them, to explore them yourself, the more is going to become activated in you. Like I have a friend now who is doing this sight process for blind people, and where they can actually see just as well as we can with our eyes, or even better sometimes. And it sort of starts out as in complete darkness, being able to see colored cards and stuff like that. And that's another activation process, right? It's being open to that possibility that it's not your eyes that are actually doing the seeing.
Well, see,
Right?
this is fascinating. And this is what one of the things that I totally love about you is that you're probably one of the most read and researched person into all of these little realms, like going deeply into quantum physics and then going into quantum healing and then going into, quantum science, then going to, what is the next thing, what is coming out, what is the edge of all of that. And so I totally admire that you have that calling to get deeply inside there. And I'm curious what often, what are you looking for inside of all of that?
Truth. Right? Truth, knowledge, knowing, not knowledge. I'm looking for knowingness. Right? And that actually, all the reading and all the things that I do are simply to spark that, right? Like I've often said, like garbage in, garbage out. And so it's just like, like we'll use art again, right? You can just, or writing, like you can stare at a blank page, but if you pick up a book and you start reading, then all of a sudden you have all these ideas and boom, article written, right? And it's like that. So when you're open to new possibilities and you start reading and all of a sudden, this is how it works for me anyway, like all of a sudden I will know more things. For an example, like I was working part-time at a place, and so I had a commute, and so I would listen to, I'm in Canada, so CBC, and I would read all these things, and on the way to work one day, I had been reading Einstein and listening to CBC and doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden I had this knowingness that we're not from fish, we're from birds. And I get to work and I'm all excited to tell everybody this. Like, they don't care, of course. It's a grocery store, they don't care. And but it's that openness, right, to learning as quality information as you can, and then being open to the truth to come through that. And I also had that experience of reading the Bible, which I could never read. I would always fall asleep. And then my friend one day said, well, you don't read it from your brain, you read it from your heart. And then all of a sudden I could read it. And as I'm reading, I'm understanding different things and that aren't written there. And it happened with my own book as well, Spirituality and Puzzle Pieces, where it's just a book of my raw downloads. And I go back now and I read it and I get more out of it. And so, when you use things to spark your learning, and as you advance in your evolution and your understanding, you will understand things at a different level. Like the same things going around and around, but it's always at a new level of understanding and awareness. And it's like, boom, it's like these amazing insights all the time. That's addictive.
So tell me then about clarity of mission. So we talked a little bit about, finding your mission through these threads, right, throughout your life, and seeing that you always have been on your mission. And yet sometimes we get to this point and say, I'm not sure what to do then, or what my mission is to do right now. Like we are doing beings. We don't want to just be, we want to do something here on the planet. Right. So what about that clarity? How do people find that clarity in this moment?
Well, I do it through connection, right? Through psychic connection for other people and for my intuitive connection for myself. And so the more you become in tune with that, the more you'll be directed to, you'll continuously be directed to do the right thing. Or, right, maybe not the right word, but we'll use it. So I can help you with that, or you just pay more attention.
Sure. And so what then is your role inside that when you work with someone? Like how do you support someone inside of that? I know we've done it together, so I just want to hear you say it.
Well, I have the reading profiling, and in which I tap into your energy and get all that information for you. But the cooler way is the goals process, in which I do the reading too, but I also have a process that I take you through where you have to do all this research, and it's really intense for 2 days, two full afternoons. And what happens in that process is it befuddles your brain, and the core has to come through then, and you can't deny it. It's the coolest process ever.
I love that. I love that. You know, it's kind of like those paraliminals where they put something different in both ears, and finally your brain's like, I can't listen anymore.
Yeah, you can't make up excuses. You can't make up things anymore. It just comes out. Yeah.
And so Tom says, I love that, reading the Bible from the heart. And I think that applies here as well, is that eventually then all you can do is listen from your heart and hear it from your heart and get the full picture of what is being laid out in front of you, and see all those little breadcrumbs on how they connected together. That this is all you do ever.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, you know, like you were saying earlier about paying attention to your guidance, and it's really important when you get a nudge like that to do it right away. That's your priority. It takes priority over everything else.
I totally agree with that. And I'm the one who, I was the queen of sticking my toe in. Like I'd be like, oh, well, maybe I'll see if I do that a little bit, if I can see if that's going to work or not. And eventually realized, oh yeah, that's actually the whole problem. Just sticking your toe in is not a commitment to source, to your higher self, to the learning, to the lessons, to the mission, everything else. It is about this speed of action and being all in, just being all in.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because there's an evolution within that, you know, going from self, you know, like, and you can see this in many people's businesses too, where their start, or your artwork can start as just being for you, like it's all about you and you discovering yourself, and it's all you. And then you move into, oh, for somebody else too, you include other people too, right? So now I can sell my artwork, or, you know, now I'll create a process to show other people how to do this thing that I've been doing for myself. And then you become more universal, include everybody in the world in this, and you want to reach out further. And then you become even more expansive than that and want to include the entire cosmos. Like, so there's always this process, and you'll see that, like in my business, I've seen that, like starting with different, like the spiritual adventure program, private coaching, the game, and then the Conscious Evolution Journal, which can go worldwide. So there's different levels in your business too that you'll find.
And so, since you brought it up, I do want to talk about this too, because you do so many things that are so cool on the planet. And the Conscious Evolution Journal is one of those things. So it is a quarterly journal that is all things consciousness. How did that come about? And can you tell us a little bit about the journal itself?
Oh my gosh, that was a pure nudge, like no other before. And it was really interesting because I was in the process of doing something else, and that just halted, just boom, stopped. And I got this download of exactly what the journal was going to look like, laid out for 2 years, everything, just boom, like that. I just quickly wrote it all down. And then I went off to finish, a retreat that I was doing. And the day I finished the retreat, I started working on the journal. And in 2 weeks, from knowing nothing about how to make a magazine, let alone a digital magazine, like nothing how to put anything together, like zero, I created it and got it out. Like, I'm good at getting shit done, but that was extraordinary. Like, that was definitely through me. And so the journal it's quarterly, as you said. It's been improving every single issue. And it actually is a journey through the chakras on one level, but it goes way deeper than that. And it includes poetry now. It includes where you have a coach on there, a coach for business life, which is really cool. Jean is in it as well. And we have story, and we have teaching sessions, we have nutrition, we have consciousness products, and it all is about being consciously aware and evolving in a conscious way.
Right, because of course our lives aren't just about our business or just about our health or just about our relationships or what we do or anything else. It's this whole us. It's everything. And so when we bring consciousness to all of those, it's incredibly exciting. Yeah. So the next issue, though, is just about ready. Yes?
Just about. It'll be ready November 1st.
November 1st. Okay, cool. And the topic is breath or breathe. Mm-hmm. And you have a really cool gift for everyone today, don't you?
I do. Jean has a link, and it's to get the last issue of the Conscious Evolution Journal for free, so you can have a look at it to see what you think and try it out. Yeah.
Yeah, really, I've been so thrilled to be part of this project, and it truly is about feeding all parts of your world and this whole expansion place. How do you do that? How do you expand your consciousness? This is like step one. Everyone should have it. I am putting I'm putting the link there, and it's jeanberrypresents.com/CEJ, which stands for Conscious Evolution Journal. All right, so you'll find it there, and you can pop in and enjoy a free issue of the journal. So incredibly cool, and I love seeing what you're doing, because I know, RoseAnn, that you're always going to be on the cutting edge of everything consciousness and expansion and all those kind of things. So I'm always watching you, girl.
I'm super excited about this new issue too, because we have some crazy good stories in it, but also because it is about the heart and the lungs, and it's a greater understanding of the whole area and the fourth chakra than you really see anywhere else, which is...
Yes. And I do product reviews for the journal, and so we have some cool reviews in each one, so yay. And as you also come out with your products, let me know if you would like to be featured in the journal. You can also send me a note, and I'll see if it's aligned with the theme for that specific issue, and we can get you reviewed in a professional journal. So woohoo! That is incredibly cool. So RoseAnn, what little bit of wisdom, I know, can you summarize it in just, something that you have to tell everyone? What do you want to leave our viewers with today?
Openness and compassion. I think we have tended to, it's a result of judgment, right, and separation. But once you become more open to hearing everybody's side without judgment. You open your heart, you open compassion, and you open to a greater understanding and learning. And a little known thing about the heart area, the whole chest area, is that's where intelligence actually resides, intellect actually resides.
I've heard that actually. That the signals from the heart, you get like 8 signals from the heart and just 1 from the brain.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if you want to find RoseAnn, you can find her at her website, which is
revealyourlight.com.
beautiful. I'll type that in there as well. Revealyourlife.com. Beautiful. And thank you. Thank you so much for coming here. And of course, if you want to know more about her game or you want to play it sometime, I have a copy too. But you can find that on her website also, and lots of little samples of the amazing results you get from RoseAnn's game, her coaching, and the journal. So lots of amazing reasons to connect with RoseAnn. And thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us here today.
Thank you, Jean, for having me, and awesome to see everybody here today.